Brett, welcome to the Matt Marney Fitness Show. How are you, mate?
I am very well. I'm very well on this Thursday morning. Yeah, lovely, mate. My day actually started off with a Polish lesson, which we might get into a little bit later, which has been going well. And then other than that, I'm now here. So hopefully I don't speak any Polish on your podcast.
Please do. Dobra. Is that Polish? Is this Dobra?
Dobra, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Dobra.
Right, yes.
Now,
good.
I have to ask why you're learning Polish?
Yeah, okay, good question. So I'm getting married in August.
Oh,
and my fiance is Polish.
Nice.
And her parents, or her mum and her aunt, a wider family, they don't speak that much English. So there's this genius situation that happens where we'll be sitting in the living room, everyone's having a lovely time, and then my beautiful fiance leaves, and then you're like looking around if you don't know any language to share, right? It's a bit awkward. And then like her mum will go and make a cup of tea, or I'll pretend I've got to go to the bathroom.
Oh,
and God, so I want to learn Polish so I can actually converse. And then at the wedding, I want to give a speech.
I'm all in for that. Now, honestly, right now, my wife might mind me talking about this because we had previous partners. Just what you just said. Oh my God, I many years ago, I was dating a girl from Poland, and I went back one summer, and we went to Wrocław. It was lovely, but we went back to the family unit, and that exact situation that you're trying to avoid. I'm not joking, mate. I was sat there. I couldn't communicate. It was like eyebrows and gestures. Sure. And then I had to eat little chicken hearts in a soup, which was, I don't know if you've experienced that yet.
No, I haven't got that level.
Oh, you do?
Lucky enough, I've avoided.
Have you never had it? It may come up, and I couldn't say anything because I couldn't communicate. I just had to smile and eat tiny chicken hearts in the soup. Anyway, that's cool. But please, like for the listeners, throw in some Polish. I will obviously ask you to translate, but I'm happy about that.
Okay, so I'll say to the audience, and I apologize for any Polish people listening if I'm butchering your language. I'm really sorry, right? So if I was to say cześć, that means hey, right? So hey, hello. And if I said jak się masz, that means how are you? Okay, so it means how are you? So cześć, jak się masz, right? The funny thing is I've got to share this with Matt, and we promise we'll get into it, right? We're not going to talk about Polish. When I get married, what you'll realize with the Polish people obviously know this, is that the words change based on the context of the sentence. So my name is Brett Norris, but at my wedding, my name will be Bretta Norisa, right? Which sounds, there's a bit of like a flair to it. So no longer that bloke from Hertfordshire.
Oh my God.
So now I've got a little bit of flair to me, you see?
That's amazing. That's amazing. And actually, before we get onto the topic of conversation, you just mentioned your name, Bretta Norisa. There's a couple of things I wanted to say. So first thing is that your surname is the same as my wife's. So she
wow.
Yeah, she didn't change her name. So we got married and she kept her surname. So you have the same surname as my wife. And also, and I did a bit of Instagram stalking, you're also a Tottenham supporter, aren't you?
Yeah, I am, mate, unfortunately.
No, that's cool. No.
Getting a little bit better.
Yeah, exactly. You signed in this morning. My missus is a lifelong Tottenham supporter. All her family are.
Okay.
So they are the Norris clan and they're Tottenham supporters. So I mentioned this to my wife, and she's never met you, but she likes you as well, just because of that. And I feel closer to you, and the fact that you're.
Oh, that's lovely.
So it's amazing. Nice. It's amazing. Anyway, on with the show. Yes, listeners. So it's cool. We got an insight into Brett Norris's life. And when's the wedding? In August?
August 24th. Yeah, August 24th in Porto. Yeah. Don't all be turning up because I'm going to get in trouble. Everyone starts turning up on the door.
It's in
Porto.
In Portugal?
Yeah. Portugal.
Wow. Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations,
mate. Thank you very much.
No, it's cool. So let's kick off. I mean, the listeners, I feel that they know you already. They know parts of your life that they don't know most guests. But in terms of your professional capacity, Brett Norris, and what you do in the fitness wellness world, why don't you introduce yourself? I mean, obviously we know you're getting married and you're Bretta Norisa.
Of course.
But what does Bretta Norisa do in this realm of fitness and wellness?
Yeah, okay, right. So I've been in the industry coming up for 20 years. So I actually started off, born just outside of London. That's where my story started, come out of university, and I started at GlaxoSmithKline, which you might be aware of.
Yep.
And I actually worked one of their corporate gyms. I'm going to speed across a few years because not much is happening. So then it gets to 2007. So I'm a personal trainer, qualified personal trainer, just trying to train anyone and everyone, learn my trade. And then I'm playing football and I tear my ACL. And then that led me into a path within my career where I got more interested within rehabilitation. So what I actually do now is I help people rediscover themselves after injury. Okay. Right. So it's a mixture of the mind-body process that is usually brought on by injury. And then even when the injury is healed, they're still in pain, their life's still shot, they don't feel like themselves. And then hopefully I find them at some part along that journey. So it was really an injury that got me into a more niche area of personal training, if you like. Yeah. So that happened.
And you had reconstructive surgery in 2013 also. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was living in Singapore. I went out there in the February, and then I started playing football, and it was a non-contact this time, 2013. And I'd only been there about 6 weeks, I think. I've been there about 6 weeks, and I had to fly home and get my surgery again. And so I'm sure we'll get into what goes on with surgery in terms of your mind and your body and why that intrigued me and how that helps people. But yeah, in a way it was fascinating, but in another way, on a personal level, it was brought on some quite tough challenges going through that 2 times because it's a long old recovery. And if you're not aware of the ACL is a main ligament within your knee. And the average recovery time from ACL reconstruction is anywhere between 6 months to 9 months.
That's right.
And my actual first surgery took 2 years to come back from because of complications.
Wow.
My second one, that really got me into understanding the mind's role in with the body. And then the second one, it was hard to say because I was living abroad and I was living a very different lifestyle in terms of I wasn't playing football regularly. I didn't have this sort of desire and this milestone, if you like, to track my progress of getting back to football. But I believe my return to doing everything I want to do was way quicker. But all in all, I'd say 3.5 years out with 2 knee reconstructions, which was, got me intrigued in what I wanted to help other people with in terms of returning from their injury.
I mean, a lot of our inspiration and passion in life comes from earned and learned experience. You know, a lot of meditation teachers, a lot of people that work in the stress world, the well-being world have often suffered themselves, burnout, going to corporates and whatnot. I've experienced that. So obviously you experienced something in that process that inspired you to help others. I mean, if you wouldn't mind deep diving, I mean, the physical stuff is one aspect, but I mean, what did you notice, even in hindsight, that you went through during that period?
Yeah, I mean, the first injury, honestly, it was all hindsight because I had nothing before to go on. The second surgery, I had a little bit more to go on, a little bit more knowledge. I remember talking to my dad about, must have been 4 or 5 months in. So after the ACL reconstruction, it took me 9 months just to straighten my leg, right? So you can imagine what that affects you from doing, right? All the sort of things that affect you from doing. So it was a horrific recovery. And I was seeing chiropractors, physios, therapists, all these sorts of people. And I remember saying to my dad, I've got a degree in sports science. I'm a personal trainer. Okay, I've not got experience in rehabilitation. I don't know who to believe, where to go, what to do. I'm paying out so much money, I'm lost. If I can dive into this and understand what I actually need, I'm pretty sure there are many, many people going through this. And for me as a person, I need to be able to relate with something. So as an example, I never went through school and had an issue with my weight. So I'm not going to start talking to people about issues with, start coaching people on weight loss stuff. Because for me, I can't relate to it. And I feel I'm a better coach when I can relate to it. Injuries, depression, losing yourself through injury, I've been there, right? So because I can relate to it, it gave me this passion. It built a passion. It built a purpose, if you like. To learn from my own story and then help others without taking people just through my story, making sure I was taking them through their story, but with the inspiration of what I'd been through and what I'd learned. So it was mainly, the first thing was seeing the pitfalls. There was no connection. You go to the doctor, right? And then you've got to also go to the chiropractor, and then you're seeing the therapist on the phone. No one talks to each other. You've got to keep explaining your story in a way where you don't fully understand it as well as they do. they've got someone else coming in the next hour. So it's like, you're not really getting anywhere. You're paying everyone a ton of money. You're not getting anywhere with it. And at the same time, I just want to be playing football. And I don't want to go and watch my mates play football or my team play football, because that just hurts too much. I'm just stuck at home. And so it was really about then, when I came out of that, could I help people by connecting people with the professionals that they needed to? So like a hybrid, if you like, between myself, and then can I also help link them with someone who maybe does the osteopathy, maybe I know someone who performs knee surgeries, maybe I know someone who does more nutrition work. And then I'm helping them not have to explain their story every time they see someone. They feel like they're being cared for. They feel like they have a team of people who care for them as an individual, rather than let's just recover your knee. Yeah. So onto your second point in terms of the mind stuff, I was quite amazed by, because I was 23, I was quite amazed by the mental journey. So it happened in November 2007. And I realized I was suffering with chronic depression in May 2008. And I never linked it to the injury at the time. I thought back to my childhood. I thought back to relationships. Nothing really made sense. And I just went down and down and down.
Yeah.
And then I had a conversation with a therapist, and they basically really easily told me, you're shaping everything in the negative. And I want you to start focusing on the positive, stop putting pressure on yourself, stop raising fear to the situation. And it was incredible. Like, my life started changing very, very quickly. And so I had this understanding of, okay, it's not just the injury, right? Because people going through, they're having the injury, the surgeon does their job, the physio does their job, which, to be honest with you, Matt, you're probably getting 6 weeks help with a 9-month recovery.
Yeah.
Right? Because of how insurance works. Yeah. So you're getting 6 weeks help from 9-month recovery. So you've got, unless you've got bundles of cash, you've got that time to get through. And then you've got the mental side of it. Well, who's helping you with that? Because you speak to the therapist, but the physical therapist, but the chances are the physical therapist hasn't been through it. So they understand how to get your knee to bend well, extend well, get your body to rotate well. But they have no idea what you're going through mentally. Then you go home and you talk to your parents. Or if you've got parents like mine, really lovely parents, but they're going to shape everything, they're very protective.
Yeah.
But when you start learning about how the brain works, it's not what you want, right? Because then you're raising fear. And then maybe you're in a relationship and your partner's getting so sick and tired of you not being able to go out for a walk and go for a dinner and go bowling or whatever you're supposed to be doing, because you're always in pain. And you don't feel understood. And I think people in life, they just want to feel understood. And there's so much to it. It's so complex coming back from some injuries. And oftentimes the complexity lies with the person. I think a lot of my complexity coming back from injury was myself. I was so young. I didn't understand my personality. I didn't understand my perceptions and beliefs that I held. I didn't understand how that linked to reality I was experiencing. And I couldn't turn to anyone. So I just had to learn it myself. Yeah. And then hopefully help people avoid going through the same journey. Pretty much.
Yeah, that's powerful, mate. I mean, I can identify with so much you said there. I've not experienced a major injury like that, but I have experienced depression, and I think it's difficult for people to understand and relate to it. When you talk about depression and the term gets tossed around, I'm talking darkness and I'm talking about, nervous system shut down. I mean, excuse the way I'm going to describe this, but the only way I describe it is someone stuck a vacuum up my backside and sucked out every ounce of my confidence, self-esteem, rational thought shut down. And I was in the same position. I didn't know what was going on. And it was frightening. And it was slightly different. I mean, it is frightening. I mean, and this is, it's a bit heavy to get into conversation like this, but this is when you look at men's mental health and rates of suicide, men checking out, which they have been since the 60s. It's not a recent thing. It is, and it's frightening. And for me, it was about sense of purpose, who I want, expectations. My expectations about who I am, what I should be, where I should be in life. It was all self-centered fear. But for you, I suppose, I'm thinking now off the top of my head, you're a personal trainer, you're someone who's very active. I mean, take that out of your life. I mean, we know movement fuels a lot of the good stuff.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, that was a realization of the fact that it was that and a couple of facts, right? Before, there was about a 6-week period between my initial ACL, and this is not everyone's brain's going to work like this. We're all different, right? We're all different personalities. I was 23, so there's an element that I want to wear this mask that I'm better than what I am, or truer than what I am, or that I'm I fit in with everybody at the age of 23. Now at the age of 38, I kind of just happy being myself, right? And so I remember this weird thing that happened where I was this guy who had torn his ACL, but I was also a personal trainer. And so I tried to hide the fact that I tore my ACL at work. Wow. Because I didn't want people to realize that I took, because how could I tear my knee? I'm supposed to know what to do with my body. This is how I thought at the age of 23, right?
Yeah.
So if I sat at the desk, at the reception desk, I'd have my leg under the desk, hid away, so that people wouldn't know, right? And then obviously people started to find out. But initially I was trying to hide it. So I didn't want people to know because I felt it would devalue me as a trainer. And I think this is also a real thing amongst trainers. I'd love people to maybe comment on this, or to put it out there where people have gone through things before, anxiety, depression, injury, whatever it might be. And they feel because they're a coach, they shouldn't be exposing that because it will devalue them as a coach. And actually, what I learned later in life, it was everything that made me relatable, right? But at the time, it was kind of everything that I felt it was, well, I'm just no good at my job. And that's weird as well, because when you don't want to talk to people, you can't get any answers. And at 23, I didn't know where to go for the answers. And so it was just something, I think that led as well to the depression, because then you can't have the conversations that you would have. You're hiding a lot in, you're bottling a lot in. There's just constant pressure, fear.
I know.
As we'll probably get into later, that is just keeping you in high alert. And when you're living on high alert, it's horrific.
And I think, I mean, I talk a lot on this podcast about the holistic approach to wellness, to fat loss. Even it's it's not just about energy dense balance and movement, etc. There's a whole, and it's the same with injury, I'm sure. So let's dive into kind of you've experienced this stuff and you've started this journey of self-discovery. I mean, what was that path like?
That's a really, really good question. Sorry, a lot of these answers aren't going to be quick. So that really happened. So I think in my early part of my career, I wasn't training enough people to see trends. And then I came to Dubai because of what I wanted. I always wanted to be a high value trainer. So I wanted to develop my knowledge. I wanted to train fewer people, and I wanted to give them as much contact time as possible. And what we may get into later is I'm somebody who I don't necessarily build community because I'm such a relator. I want one-to-one contact, and that actually drives me. So, given what I do, most people in Dubai probably don't even know I exist. And that's because I'm such a relator. I just know one-to-ones. I don't build community, okay? And so because of that, I wasn't really meeting a lot of people. Then I moved to Dubai and I worked at a company called Fit Republic. And that was like 180, right? I think I did something like 2,500 PT sessions in 18 months.
Wow.
And as hard as that was to do, I took it on board as like, I'm just going to try and deliver the same amount of value to every single client, as much as it burns me out. Just try and build a rep here and then, build the community off of that. But the interesting thing is the trends I was seeing, and the beautiful trend I started seeing, which is probably also changing myself because I'm seeing it, right? You see the world as you are, is that people weren't overcoming their injuries. And this was a breakthrough for me. People weren't overcoming their injuries because they couldn't internally rotate their tibia or their shin, or they couldn't pronate their foot, or, they'd lost movement of their hip or pelvis. They were 100% of the time, they were not overcoming it because they created a character of themselves that wasn't aligned with where they wanted to be. And I saw that time and time again. So what I did with self-rediscovery was I actually used exercise as a Trojan horse to basically take in the mind stuff. Because if I go to someone who's got knee pain, well, that exists on their knee. That exists in their body, right? So when I say, do you know it could be something to do with your mind? No, it's in my knee. And they'll look at you like you're an idiot, right? I'd be like, no, it's on my knee, mate, not my mind.
Yeah.
And so you have to, I felt anyway, in the gym, in the personal training scene, I have to make it look like exercise. Yeah. But it's getting all the goodness that I want in terms of mind body connection and neuroplasticity and all of that stuff that we'll get into. And so that really helped me in terms of, I realized I wasn't actually working on improving someone's foot pronation. I was actually working on improving someone's perception of themselves. And if I can start to change you, or not change you, sorry, if I can start to enable you to change yourself or challenge your beliefs that you hold, you'll start to have a new perceptual lens that will give you a different reality that hopefully is linked with this better version of yourself that is aligned with where you want to go. So you're here, the version of yourself you've created for yourself is here, but you want to get to here. You're never going to get there because you don't believe you can get there. And every time something goes wrong, you wear it like a badge. And every time something goes right, you ignore it because you don't think you're worthy of it. And you just never go forwards, right? So that then started to really go forwards. And then I think we spoke about off the podcast in terms of my friend and stuff, and that was a big moment in my life. And that goes into like mental health, and that allowed me to see the again, I just want people to wake up in the morning, go into the bathroom that you're doing your teeth, look yourself in the mirror and just happy to be there's another day. You're just happy with yourself. And we'll both know through depression, like you just can't wait for that day to be over. Sometimes you just don't even want to exist anymore, right?
Yeah.
And it's horrible. It's horrible. Yeah. And so for someone to be able to have that first moment, you look in the mirror and you're just happy with your lot, right? And you just see positives. You're aware of the negatives. You're aware of things that you want to expand upon, but you're capturing the positives. What's good about you? And not only is that more attractive, not only will that set you up to be better in business, not only set you up for more happiness and more joy, but probably less pain, probably far less finding problems in life and finding more opportunities in life. Yeah. And so that rediscovery. Yeah. So I feel like I don't know, is this linking? I feel like I'm just talking. But
no. I totally get where you're coming from. I identify, but I think where it ties into, and this is probably what listeners think, is it ties into pain. Because that's fundamentally why people go to, so say what you were saying earlier about consistency of care. I was lucky enough to be in an orthopedic clinic for 12 years. I was in the gym. We had the osteos, chiros. I was in there for 12 years. Cross referral stuff. I get the value of consistency, but even in a huge, large private orthopedic clinic, there's still inconsistencies there. But what people probably don't realize is exactly that. So when we talk about chronic pain and injury, it is complicated. It is not just a case of I've got, like you just said, I've got knee pain, I've got hip pain. And sometimes, people will carry that injury as something, almost a distraction.
Yes.
To ignore that maybe they're not happy in their career, or they have an unhappy marriage, or they don't feel satisfied, or that compare and despair that we do. And I think when we talk about stress, and we'll dive into this now, and stress and how fixing someone's belief systems can change that pain experience.
Huge, massive.
Yeah, I mean, let's tie into some of the work you're doing. So you're with a client, you're working on, like you say, tibial torsion, a bit of pronation. You're doing the biomechanical work. Yeah. But what does that look like for your client in terms of the work you're doing? How are you changing someone's lens and perception?
Brilliant. Okay, that's a great question. All right, fantastic. So I'm already making them aware that this is a journey they're going to go on from the first session. So it's important for me to outline the clients I'm working with have had their problem usually between 1 to 30 years. So generally, the longer that's gone on, they're just like on their neck. They just want a change. So now they're more open to change. So we're having that conversation. Now, when I'm doing all the stuff that makes me look like an end stage rehab guy and a personal trainer, what I'm actually doing, so I will, for instance, what I'm always doing is I'm getting them to do a movement, see how it feels. Okay, let's go do that. Now, how does it feel? Now, I don't want to bring the intention to pain. But what I want to do is show them the positive impact of what their body can do. And also, I really want to capture how are they going to go with this. So I've got a brilliant story. Just now, I've taken on a guy, 10 years of pain. He's stopped going out with his friends because he can't even stand without pain. And he doesn't know what to do. He's seen so many people. And so the first session is basically trying to help him understand how he needs to look at this problem, and maybe how he's been looking at this problem in terms of the knee pain, only looking at the knee, has led to no success at the moment. And so the first thing I knew I had to do with this guy is I had to give him an aha moment to realize that his nervous system, his brain had something to do with this. So what I noticed in him was that he was too activated. What it means is there was too much tension, too much capability, if you like, around the lower end of his thigh, right? And at the upper end of the thigh, for the tests what he'd done, for the movements he was doing, I could see that what he was doing, he wasn't redistributing tension very well for his body. So I thought, what if I sit this guy against the wall and get him to lift his leg? He's probably going to do it very well on his left, but not his right. And so he sat him against the wall. He lifted his left leg, and he could do it easy. And he did it on his right, and he couldn't move his leg. He couldn't lift his leg. And he looked at me like, what's going on? And I said, okay, it's fine. It's okay. He said, come out here. We're going to do some breath work, right? Because I know through breath work, the position I've put him in, it's going to give him more flexion, more rounding, which is going to help the positioning of his hip and pelvis into flexion. And so I sat him against the wall again, and he could lift. And he was just blown away that by doing a breathing exercise could actually bring that movement back. Now, to me and you, we're going to simplify that in a sense. I think, well, that's not a great deal. But to the lay person, that's huge. And so all I needed for him was an aha moment to kind of give up the fact that it's only a body problem, right? And actually, it's more of a safety problem. It's more of a, yeah, the movement's involved, but also the brain's involved as well. So now what I'm saying to him is, there is a potential. What I believe is that you can do everything you want to do. You're just not doing it. You believe you can't do what you want to do because you can't do it. Now, they're two very different things, right? Two very, very different things. So actually, what I'm helping you do is express what you can do, not get you back what you can't do, right? So you're already very, very capable. You just can't express it. Now that takes him away from a feeling of like, I'm injured, because definitely not injured after 10 years. So I'm injured. I've got this problem. I'm incapable. You're not, you just can't express it, right? And so then he's gone to the Philippines for 3 months, training online. And I spoke to him yesterday. This is beautiful. And he spoke to me, and he said, bro, I went out for drinks with a mate last night. He was really, really happy about it. I said, oh, brilliant. So how'd you get on? He said, yeah, no pain. First time, right? No pain. Oh, brilliant. I said, what did you notice? And I love the fact that rather than just saying, oh, there was no pain, he said, I noticed that I could trust, and I love that, I could trust my right side more. And I was actually putting more weight through my foot. We've covered a lot in 3 sessions. Put more weight through my foot. So I knew I could access my toe, my big toe better. I could actually get more weight on my right leg. And I felt safer. And I was like, he's talking safety, he's talking trust, he's talking position. He's not talking knee pain's gone, on my knees better. And so already the words he's using are the words I want him to use, because the meaning attached to those words is the meaning I need him to have. I don't really care what words you use. I'm going after the meaning. Yeah. And so it was just incredible. And the session before that, by the way, it was a beautiful moment. We're in the gym together, and he'd broken down in tears, and he was like, I just needed hope. And you got like this 36-year-old guy. He's very, very successful business guy. And me and him are like hugging it out in my gym, right? And he's just in tears, and he's just like, I just needed hope. And you're just like, oh my God, that like lights your soul, right? What people are living with and how close they are to where they need to be is insane versus where they believe they are. So you're watching people move essentially, and then you're changing the story that they're focusing on. So yes, we're improving tibial torsion. Yes, we're improving, let's say, whether it be the pelvic movement, right? So whether it be we can improve a pelvic shift, okay, pelvic height, whatever it might be, spinal flexion, whatever it might be. Yes, those are the things that we're improving physically. What we're actually doing is bringing attention to the story that raises capability, that raises what they can do, raises safety, without constantly asking him, are you in pain? Are you in pain? Because it's just going to bring his attention to pain. I'm going to say to him, do you notice you can pronounce your foot back? Yeah. And how does that make the body feel? Oh, I can feel I can load my hamstring back. Great. Okay. And how does that make this area of your body feel? Oh, that feels better. And then towards the end of the session, I'll just ask them a series of questions. So when you go home today and you explain this to your partner, what are you going to say we do? Oh, you're helping me better organize myself. You're helping me better coordinate my body better, which is going to help me redistribute tension. Amazing. We're not just like getting rid of knee pain. So does he know what we're trying to do together? And what story are we actually making him focus on? Which is going to start having to challenge his belief systems. And he's been incredible at the moment. Not always that easy. He's been incredible at the moment. So it's in that sense, I'm bringing your attention to a different story than the one you're telling yourself, which is keeping you exactly where you are, basically.
I mean, there's so much there, Brett. There's the limiting self-beliefs that you're talking about. And
yeah, for sure.
There are some bright minds in the Pilates world who are talking this language. They're speaking about self-efficacy, agency, autonomy. They, giving people permission. And if you really want to simplify it down, really want to and it's complicated. You have to understand how the nervous system works before you can go into this stuff. But put simply, we're boosting people's confidence.
Yes,
we're complimenting them. We're saying, "Wow, you're doing amazing. That looks great. You're getting stronger." And it baffles me. And I will reference, say, the movement world. I'll reference the Pilates world and I'm not blaming anyone. There's great teachers in all areas of Pilates, but there's an insistence on alignment and micromanagement of people's movement, which we know from learning for learning movement and moving more efficiently and better. We can't teach people that. They have to experience it, and they have to correct. It's how we learned before, like movement science and portability. Of course we did. We'd look at our mate in the tribe and go, "He just jumped over that fire. I'm going to give that a go." And you'll fail first time, won't you? You'll land in the coals and burn your face, and you'll have another go. You'll learn movement skills. And you also, the power of language. So everything you're describing here, you've got someone who has been told, and this baffles me now, in the world of MRIs, and we live in Dubai, mate, private medical insurance. Like, it's awful. And the language and the communication. Now, I'm not blaming medical professionals. They do their job. They spot something on a scan and they feed back their findings. But the language that people use, and we can talk about this, people understand placebo. Placebo is a belief that something's working. If you believe something's working, the body is an incredible healing mechanism. It will do it. Right. You've got placebo, but you've also got nocebo.
That's right. I was saying this to a guy yesterday.
And the language we use is so important. And I love that. And people are probably thinking that sounds really basic and really straightforward, but it fundamentally, it is what it's about. It's about changing belief systems.
I link it to, it's a little bit of like, it's not really crude, but I guess it's kind of on that sort of level where I've always linked it to being a single guy and going to the bar and meeting a girl, right? Now, 9 out of 10 guys are going to go there with some kind of game plan, right? And they're going to go up to the girl and they're going to say like, "All right, love, like, how you doing? Like, shut this," right? And they're going to be like, "No." And then the guy's going to walk up and just be like, treat her like a human being, right? Like, actually, that works. Treat the person like a human being with no expectation of anything in return and just have a chat. The chance are you'll probably be more successful, right? Now, if you say that as a rule to people, they say, "But that's too easy." It's like, what happens in life when the basics are missing? The basics become the big shiny shit that everyone wants. Now, unfortunately, in life, the big shiny stuff has become the basics. They've been lost. And so I love, like, when you're listening to me, like, I have goosebumps. It's so nice to meet someone who shares my language and someone who cares about the basics. It's so nice, Matt. It's wonderful. Like, I'm so pleased that this world has you in it, because your language, the way you talk, like, people need this stuff. People need this. And when people come to see you, you have to, I can't remember who quoted it now, but they said, no matter the problem, when you meet a human soul, just be another human soul, like, initially, right? Just be there for them. And the second thing is, don't try, if someone brings you a problem, don't always try and fix it. Just listen to it.
That's a powerful thing you've just said there. And I think I'm guilty of that, particularly with my wife. I need to listen more. She comes in with her problems. I've always want to solve stuff. But sure. I'll share, actually, if listeners are listening to this now thinking, "Oh, it's what's this?" We're talking about what we're talking about here is the biopsychosocial model of pain. It's complicated. Yes. And I think as practitioners, trainers, we need to understand the stuff first before we can make it just about giving people confidence. We need to understand fundamentals, because I think I was talking to someone on the podcast recently that, the biomechanical model has been shat on a bit, and it's all been about the biopsychosocial. But, if a client comes to you with a biomechanical approach over the years with physiotherapy, or they've been given this language that they understand and all the information's out there, then you need to be able to prove and demonstrate that you understand the basic fundamentals to maybe gain trust and in you as a practitioner, therapeutic alliance, and then do the stuff. But I share this story often. So I was working in this orthopedic clinic, and I was down in the gym, and my mate Tom was one of the sports doctors up in the clinic, and I had knee pain, right? I share this whenever I'm teaching back pain courses and we talk about fear avoidance or kinesiophobia. I'll say, right, I had knee pain. I was hobbling around. I thought, you know what, it's getting on my nerves. I'm going to go and get this sorted. I went down to see Tom. I said, Tom, my knee's hurting. He said, come in, Matt, hop on the desk. He'd done a few tests. He had to play around. It's like, yeah, well, what do you think, mate? He hopped off. Now, looking back, Tom probably didn't realize the language it used, but he went, don't think it's your knee, mate. I was like, oh, okay. He said, it could be referred. It might be a disc bulge. Right. So I've walked into that office and I understand this stuff, by the way.
Yes.
I know. I walk into the office with knee pain. I walked out with the disc bulge. Now, I kid you not, Brett. I walked out of his office and then there's a long corridor down to the gym. As I started walking down to the gym, my gait changed. I started to limp. I walked into the gym. If I saw you in the gym, I'd own it. I'd walk up to you, Brett. I'd go, oh, mate, how you doing? You go, yeah, not bad. How Spurs getting on? Yeah, I go, I've got a disc bulge. Mate, I owned that disc bulge and I was getting a pain experience. The way I organized my body changed. I embodied this thing that is a disc bulge. And I think that's the point we're trying to make when we think about belief systems. If you get told by a consultant that we've all got osteoarthritis in our spine after the age of 30, it's a bit of wear and tear. But you get told you've got a crumbling spine or you've got a fracture or something's been shown on an MRI. You get given that label, you own that label, and because you believe there's injury and damage, guess what? You get pain.
Yeah, that's right.
It's definitely something that needs to be delved into.
So this is something that just to add to that, Matt, this is something that I really help people with. I don't necessarily go into some people want to go into the science of it with their clients straight away. I'm more of a believer that my clients are there mainly for the outcome, right? If they want to know the depths of it, we'll go through it. We will go through it, right? But at a time and place, they're going to remember 5-10% of what I say anyway. So, but what we're talking about here, so for people listening, is that what's very common with my clients is that they've usually had an injury. So they've had a shoulder injury. 10 years on, they've still got a shoulder problem. Now, what we've got to decipher between is actual pain and what we call neuroplastic pain, right? So like learn pain output, learn pain outcome. And so what you'll tend to find is that even though the injury is healed, the fear, the pressure, all of this is still existing within their system, which is just constantly triggering pain. So they believe they've still got a shoulder problem 10 years later. They don't. They have an interpretation problem of the information that's coming into their brain from their body. So your shoulder is sending a message to your spinal cord's going to the brain's going output pain. Whatever it is you're doing, you're on the airplane and you put that overhead. If you're, because that shoulder that I did in 2013. And so we've got to be able to initially, especially as us guys, we've got to decipher initially, is this actually from the injury itself? Is it you coming to me 2 weeks after and you said you tore your groin? There's a very good chance of that pain that you're experiencing is because you torn your groin. But you're now 7 years in. Is this now a learned pain output, or is something else going on? And there could be other real factors. There could be some kind of infection that you've got. You could have a tumor. There is something else going on. But we've got to be able to, so many people are experiencing pain and thinking that it's from an actual injury, and actually it's an output of the brain based on the amount of danger their brain believes they're in. Yeah. And that probably isn't going to make much sense until you start moving or start doing something and you can feel your pain coming and going, or you do some somatic tracking. Yeah. And you start to notice your pain starts to have a different feeling, starts to change.
Yeah. And it's
like massive people.
It's understanding that, and the pain gets a bit of a bad reputation, but it served us quite well as a species during the years. It's pain back in the day when we didn't have our orthopedic clinics. It would help us not die. Basically, it would say you twisted your ankle, rest your ankle, because guess what? Next time you're out hunting, if you don't sort that out, you're not going to be able to get on your toes and escape the wild lion. And it's interesting you talk about shoulder. I dislocated my left shoulder when I was 17 playing rugby. Yeah. One of the boys on the sideline, don't know if he should have done it, he popped it back in. So there's an injury there from years ago. And understanding the whole functional neurology aspect of how the brain monitors old injuries and wants to protect. I have limited range of motion in my left shoulder, even to this day, and I experience pain. Yeah. The difference is I don't react to it in that
Yes.
way. The body fires it off.
Yes.
I'm too
Yes.
lazy to do the work required. I might have to come and see you and do some work. But I get that. I get that. And I think what it's probably a nice segue to move into now is we're talking about, you know, chronic injury, long-term injuries, just understanding for listeners how other factors, so the whole person, stress, relationships. Let's delve into that. How could fixing someone's sleep or, you know, improving their opinion of themselves or changing job, how could that possibly reduce pain?
So something that's interesting to think about is that you are not going to experience joy in the presence of fear, and you're not going to experience fear in the presence of joy, right? And so what you want to see is that for most people, they go through life with a switch. And for people like us, we're actually giving them a dial, right? That's how I like to explain it to my clients, right? And so it's not about, is it good or is it bad? It's about everything exists on a spectrum, right? And so if you're getting better sleep, the chance are when you wake up in the morning, your first conversation with your partner is better. Your first reaction to that email is better, right? It's just think about it really basically. And it just sets your day up for being better, right? Rather than waking up, being a bit of a so-and-so in the morning because you haven't slept very well, everything starts off worse. You go to work, you come back, well, you just spoke to this person, not very nice. They want to speak to you about it at 6 p.m. when you get home. Yep. So that then plays into your evening, you know? And so think about it in the level of how it affects the next habit that you're going to perform. So whether it might be sleep, whether it might be your nutrition, whether it might be, you know, where you're taking your thoughts. But what you're going to notice, especially when it's with people in pain, is that they just constantly put pressure on themselves. The thing that they do has to work. So for instance, when you say to somebody, do you know what, you should have a look at your changing your sleep. Currently you're going to bed at 2 a.m. and you're just sat there for 3 hours on your screen light. Okay, that's raising inflammation. That's raising, you know, everything else, not allowing the brain to switch off and detoxify, the body detoxify and stuff. That's not helping you in the morning. So they're thinking, oh, God, now I need to improve it. And now they're sat in bed at 10 p.m. and they're just stressing about, I'm not asleep. When will I fall asleep? Am I going to go from like feeling awake to like being asleep? And now they're putting so much pressure on themselves that the fear's kicking back in and they get out of bed because they can't stop their back from hurting and nothing they can do will come off it. So we really want a dial in sense of don't put pressure on things to work, right? Don't judge things that you do. So in terms of if you're trying to sleep better, move from a place of judgment to a place of observation. So I'm always saying, if it's sleep, I'm always saying to clients, your quality of sleep starts in the morning. It doesn't start when you take your covers off and you get into bed. It ain't starting there. Starting in the morning. If you want to go back, okay, yeah, probably starts from the night before and you go back even further. What's happened in that day to affect your sleep? And they think, yeah, around 8 p.m. I had a call with my dad and he had a fall and that put me right off. Okay, good. So it's not the fact that you're an idiot and you just go to bed at midnight because, you know, you've fallen into silly patterns. It's because actually you're doing really well and you got a call that kind of discombobulated you a little bit. And then you didn't know what to do with yourself and you went to bed late and you woke up in the morning, you judged yourself for feeling the way you feel. You didn't have breakfast, right? Because now you don't feel great. You stepped on the scales as well and you were 1 kilo heavier because you drank a little bit more water yesterday. And now you think, well, I'm not going to have that breakfast. You skip your breakfast. It just comes into a whole knock-on effect, right? And so the story, just no matter what problem someone brings me, I just want to hear your story. I want to hear how you tell your story is more important than the story itself. How do you tell it? What words do you use? What meaning are you giving to the words that you use? Because that's the bridge between where you are and what you're experiencing. And then can we get to a point where we can start to for you to be able to see how that might not be working for you, and could you see how this could be maybe this could help you get to a better place. But the last thing I'm going to say is that you can't perceive anything that's not in your belief system. So we have to bring you something that challenges your current beliefs. So if I'm saying to you currently you are experiencing this and it's leading to this, yeah, that's not what you want, right? No, I'm not going to tell them. I want them to answer it. No. You probably could get better if you did this, right? Yeah. If you did this, it would lead to better that, right? Yeah. Now you're starting to, they're coming along with you. You're not telling them what to do. So you're starting to reshape their beliefs of what they believe is going to work for them, rather than be resistant into the patterns that they're living, because that's natural, that's easy, that it's just easier to do. And so you really have to listen to someone's story and then ask them questions for them to answer that are guiding them along.
Yeah.
Because you also want to see, where do they go with that answer? Where do they go with that story they're now going to tell because you've asked them a question? You're just observing them. Just observe your client and then try to give them a different way of looking at things, a different perception. And then hopefully you're going to get to a different belief set. But you'll know this, Matt, like it's really hard. Like you can't give specific answers to like such a complex problem, right?
No.
And so many people are going to come to us and they're going to say, oh, but what do I do for this? And it's like, it's not, if it was that easy, I'd be like a trillionaire, right? Just go do that.
Well, I'll share an example, actually, Brett. With the sleep situation. When you were saying it, I was resonating. So you talked about belief systems and resistance. Resistance is what you mentioned. So when I struggled with my mental health, and I had a few episodes in my mid to late 20s, really challenging times. Sleep, as anyone who's experienced it, was a factor, right? Throw in some anxiety, throw in some insomnia, and I'm talking like literally nights where I didn't sleep a wink. And I'd go into work. Yeah. And it's the constant battle. It's cortisol, it's adrenaline, it's fight or flight. I'm in that state. Melatonin's got no chance. The monkey brain's off. I'm into the amygdala, rational brain shut down.
Yeah.
So I experienced that stuff, and sleep became an issue, and it was self-fulfilling, and it contributed to the problem. Now, forward wind many, many years, and I'm on a completely different path, and the way I live my life is reflective, because I don't want to go back there, because I've been in the darkness. I understand it.
Yeah.
People say to me, Matt, why are you weirdo? You meditate every day and you write gratitude lists and you do all this stuff. I said, because I didn't like that version of myself. So I got rid of him. And this is me. But on the sleep situation, I just started this podcast, and like tech's not my thing. So it was getting it set up, and I was doing face-to-faces. Now, I can't remember what day it was. This was like the second podcast I ever recorded. It was a face-to-face with someone about Pilates in Dubai. And it was about 10 o'clock it was 11 o'clock in the morning. Now I'd taken on new reformer classes that morning at a new studio. It just happened to coincide. And it was like, so I was getting up early. So anyway, I got this stuff going on in my brain. Got this new studio I've got to drive to. Then I got this podcast interview. I'll get there early, set up. Anyway, go off to bed. Mate, I kid you not, I had one of those nights where I literally did not sleep a wink. Right? Now, my head's having a little, I've been here before. It's like, I've been here before. This is weird. And then the part of me wanted to start analyzing, but it was like rational brain. It was just like, hang about, this has happened because of this. So I got up and I did contemplate canceling the podcast. I thought, I'll contemplate it. I did. I thought, I'll go to the studio. Now, what I did observe when I got to the studio, because I thought, this is interesting. I wonder how I'm going to be. I was definitely a bit more edgy. I left no sleep, right? I was a bit more, I was in this new studio. I was teaching. I was like, well, listen, if I still got through, I drank coffee, I realized it's not the end of the world. People survive without night sleep. And that's what I was telling myself, actually. It's okay. Yeah. Now, I went over to the office where I was interviewing Heber, and I walked in, I sat up, and I said to Heber, I went to her, by the way, I've had a really, really bad night's sleep. So I apologize. Anyway, drank loads of coffee, smashed it, got on with my day. And that was about a couple of years back. And you know what? It was just like, it happened for a reason. And the point I'm trying to make is, when you say attaching stories and expectations, it's like, if I have a bad night's sleep, I'm not thinking it's the end of the world. I'm not overanalyzing. It's, oh my God, my nut's gone again, Brett. I'm off me nut again. I'm getting depressed. It's just like, no, it happens. I'm not going to stress out about it the next day. I'll be all right.
And that's because you're not living on high alert. You've got the dial, right? And you've got the experience. Amazing. And
also not attaching stories to it. Attaching story to it, you know. But don't get me wrong. If this is recognizing patterns. If I see patterns happening or things are going on, I'm able to actually adjust on the fly and maybe look at stuff. But I wanted to rewind a little bit as well and talk about, if people are listening when we talk about pain. So when we're in high alert, like you're talking about, nervous system's cranked up. I mean, there's a lot of studies that show that people with lower back pain have more tone around their, you know, in the Pilates where we talk about core strength. So there's guarding that goes on. So I think we need people to understand that, actually, look, if you're in pain or if you're stressed, cortisol and adrenaline rushing around the system, fight or flight, you are naturally more guarded. You might be in more of a startle position. that is sending a signal back to the brain that there's a threat. That could send pain, but it could also be a reason why you're not moving so well in terms of mobility. You know,
perfect.
And that could lead into exercise choice and selection, etc.
For sure. Just on that point, because this is really, really important. So what I'm saying to my clients is that from my point of view, I want to just give you the capability for your body to move into every position and shape that it should be able to move into. Now, I had a session last night with a guy and he kept trying to pin me on. So for instance, he lives with his ribcage way too extended, right? And so I was saying to him, the problem you've got is when you're doing the overhead work, there's no room to move into. So you're already starting at your end range. You're lifting your shoulder. So if I was to do this for people watching, and then I lift my arm, I now present to someone with a shoulder problem, right?
Yeah.
If I do that too much, that's already starting to hurt my shoulder. Whereas if I start from a more neutral position and I take that through, now I've got space. Now I don't look somewhat like someone with a shoulder problem, right?
Yeah.
And so again, people have a switch. So I should be there or shouldn't be there? No. It's not that you should or shouldn't. It's just a position. And at some point, that position will serve you. But so will having like a flex spine. Oh, but I'm not supposed to flex my spine. No, it's a position. It's okay. Just don't live in it, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's enabling people to understand that if people, what I tend to find, Matt, is that when people are way too anxious, they've got too much going on, and they come to me, they're living in too much extension. So they're way too open, they're too extended, and they're missing internal rotation, flexion, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so the first thing I'll say to those people is, let's just say something bad just happened to your friend, and they came in and they were like, they couldn't get their words together. What's the first thing you'd say for them to do? And they'd say, breathe. And I go, well, breathe like this. And they say, no, like breathe out. And I'm like, why would you breathe out? Because it relaxes you. Okay, so take a breath in. They'll take a breath in and say, where does your position your body go? And they go, here. Okay, you're living there though. What do you think that does? Oh, I can't relax. There you go, bingo, right? So we want to be able to see, like in your movement, that you can compress and expand, not just be able to stay in a position. But unfortunately, we've been sold this lie that there's a perfect posture and there's a position that you should be in. And we're not seeing everything on a continuum. And you'll learn, but people will learn as they go through their movement journey, that everything exists on a continuum, right? It's not just here or there. It's everything is on a continuum. And sometimes you'll need to go this way a little bit. Sometimes you need to go this way a little bit, you know?
I love that. I mean, I give people permission, like you say, if there's a movement available in your spine, it's there for a reason. So if extension and rotation is there, or flexion and rotation is there, or side bending as you extend. So, I mean, I do it in classes quite often, Pilates class. We talk about self-efficacy. Some people look at you to say, tell me what to do. But I'll just say, explore movement. And you see people, because they're losing the ability. So I'm just like, just let your shoulder blades move around. See where your spine wants to go. And I think it's really important. And I love what you're saying there. You're just facilitating like kinesthetic awareness. You're allowing people to experience movement. And what are we lacking in the modern world? Just basic movement. And we can go into, like, you know, metabolizing adrenaline and cortisol, but just moving your body. And I don't know if you heard of a lady called Amy Cuddy. She's wrote a few books.
Yes.
She talks about the power poses and the influence of the way we organize our body. Because I think people that shit on the biomechanical model will say, you know, there's no evidence to suggest that this correlates with back pain. It's like, well, there's evidence to suggest it impacts your breathing mechanics, and it's signaling your nervous system that something's not right. So there's lots of.
That's where we've got to be careful that this biopsychosocial is because the way you explain it is that you can connect. Everything's connected, right? Where I say that everything in your body's connected, but I mean everything around us is connected as well. But I feel like we're getting to a place soon where people are going to start getting the biopsychosocial model and completely removing it from biomechanics. And it's like you've completely misunderstood what people mean by looking at a scan and having no relation. So what I'm seeing at the moment in Dubai is a lot of people talking about focusing on the brain and forgetting biomechanics. It's like, no. Your brain has a representation as to how your body moves and what's the safety of that. So when you're talking about your left shoulder, right, I'm already thinking, just for experience of training people, you probably your body has taken a strategy. So I never think of problems. I think of strategy. I don't think of compensations. I think of strategy. And so what strategy are you currently using, and what strategy do I need to give you to get out of this? So if you're feeling too tight and locked in here, the chances are is that your rib cage on that side is doing a bit too much extension. Well, what can't your shoulder blade do? Well, shoulder blade can't travel around an extended rib cage, right? It needs a slightly flexed rib cage to travel around, and that will restore our movement. As you say, then it needs to come into getting the work done, basically. But like, that's a strategy. Your brain keeps you there because at one point it served a purpose, right? But now we need to get your brain to understand it can flex, and that shoulder blade can move, and that arm can move, and that it's actually safe. And then that will find itself into this brain way of working through biomechanics. So we don't want to get rid of biomechanics. We just want to understand its purpose at the time. But we're just, I'm feeling like now with the social media thing, you've got the guys and their information biomechanics is amazing, like really good.
Yeah.
But it's just biomechanics.
Yeah.
And then the guys in the brain, it's just brain stuff. And I'm still like, oh my God, we're so close to it being like coming together. And it feels like it's going like this. And I'm like, that's also going to lead to problems.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a holistic approach.
No,
so we
100%.
need to understand what's the reason why we're doing what we're doing, and how does that play into the bigger picture, if you agree.
Yeah,
If you agree.
I love it. No, 100%. I mean, I've done it. I lived I jumped over into biopsychosocial camp for a few years, and I lived there for a long time. And I've come back, and it's a bit like our politics. Our politics are polarized. Our movement, the party's world is polarized. And I don't think social media helps. But living in the middle, and like you say, it's a person-centered approach.
Yes.
So, someone's nutrition. I mean, you get someone who's an expert in gut health, and they'll share stuff with you, and you go, oh my God, I had no idea. It's like, there's so many ways that we can help people. But fundamentally, I think working with the whole person and the belief systems that individual is so important. So, I mean, I'm conscious of time, a couple of an hour, but I mean, what I love you've just said there, the way we just wrap this up is that, yes, we have the brain and the impact of our belief systems, and we can work with that individual. We can educate them during sessions. We can compliment them, that you're getting stronger. We can give them the belief system, but we can also use our understanding of biomechanics, movement. And you know what, Brett, I often think about this. People that shit on movement and biomechanics is like, okay, maybe in the 1940s, you could have said that because everyone was moving, but there's like this, if you looked at movement as like a macronutrients, we've got like, we exercise, which is kind of like extracurricular, but we've got this whole macronutrient with all the micronutrients of just moving around the world, not having to do corrective exercise, just go outside and walk around and bend over and pick stuff up, accumulation of marginal gains, like it builds up over time. And that's something we're desperately missing. In terms of listeners, people who are listening, do you do online stuff? You do, obviously, you just said.
Yeah, most of my work is online. I do in-person stuff in Dubai. But most of my work is actually online. There's actually zero difference between what I'm doing in person and online. So I'm just using my voice. And what I do for the people listening is, because of my journey going through, spending tons of money, not feel like I get anywhere. What I actually offer people who are a little bit skeptical of seeing another person, is this actually going to work, is I actually take people through the first 3 sessions. So I take you through an assessment, and I have 2 strategy sessions where I'm basically trying to improve things I've seen in your assessments. The second one is then to be able to come to the end of that session and outline a step-by-step strategy as to what we need, especially for the first month, first 6 weeks. And if you get to the end of that first 3 sessions and you think this ain't for me, don't pay me. It's fine. I don't want you to lose money. I just want you to come along because I want to help you. If I can't help you, I'm not gonna charge you. So just so people are aware of that, because otherwise just another person that might let you down, right? I don't want to be another person who's going to let you down. I don't want to make money out of people I can't help. I really don't.
Passion and purpose, mate. I love it. So I would like to say all the best for the wedding in August.
Thanks, mate.
In Porto. And good luck with the Polish. And actually, on that note, put a bit of pressure on you now. I'd like you to just say goodbye to the listeners. I'm going to test you now in Polish. So you can say something, but then you must tell us what you've just said. Okay. And then we'll finish the podcast. So a bit of pressure on you, mate, but it aids in your learning. Off you go.
No worries. Pressure. What's big? I'd say to jest bardzo dobrze. And then I would say do zobaczenia, which means see you soon. Do zobaczenia, see you soon, which is different to do widzenia, which means goodbye. So do zobaczenia, see you soon. To jest bardzo dobre. It is very good. It has been very good.
Oh my God,
okay?
Brett Norris, amazing. Thank you for your time.
Well, get in there somewhat.
All the best, mate. Thank you so much.
All right,
amazing.
mate. Thanks so much,
Cheers,
man.
buddy.
See you,
Cheers.
mate.